This is Rigging Up, and you are watching round 4 of the UK Nationals 2025 startup event. For this round, we have Avasana facing off against Synapse Global, a tag-orientated MBN identity which forces the runner to carefully consider their action order within each turn and keep enough credits in reserve in order to deal with the tags. However, MBN Ice is more porous, and Avasana is infamous for being able to break into servers with mid-run installs, so this is less going to be a question of if the runner can get in, and more if it's worth the cost. Once again, a reminder that this took place on day 3 of the event, and we are running 35-minute rounds, so there will be the occasional misplay. For our first turn, we are getting an ice install on the remote, followed by an install in that remote, and a third install in a new remote. A confident start there with no ice on any of the centrals. Our runner starts off with a click 1 ritual for 3 cards. We can see one of the key access tricks in Icarus's hand here, a Fazarm Entangler. That will allow them access to any remote which is not iced up by a barrier. They appear to also have a Muse for further program tutoring, and a Creative Commission and Coalescence to keep them topped up in money, as well as a Lily Pad which will help them consistently draw more cards over the course of the game. We're going into a click 2 run on the iced remote. The ice is rezzed and revealed to be a Tattoo Bowler, a 2-cost, 1-strength ice with single end the run subroutine. This is kind of Avasana's worst nightmare, as the program is capable of uninstalling itself and swapping with other ice in your hand, which ends up trashing any Trojans that are installed on it. Icarus therefore jacks out, and we get a click 3 Lily Pad install, followed by a click 4 Creative Commission. Everyone who's watching rather than listening, Lander, our court player, uses those red counters as click trackers just to keep track of what's happened during the turn. A Spin Doctor Res before our first click. Obviously looking for a particular type of card to play this turn. One of the troubles with decks like Synapse is that you can often end up with a bunch of tag punishing cards in your hands that you really want to keep there, but at the same time not having the cards which you need at the moment in order to progress your board position. But it looks like we've at least got some cards there, as we are getting a click 1 ice install on R&D, as well as one on HQ for click 2. For click 3, however, it looks like Lander is just clicking for a credit and then passing turn back to Icarus, which makes that iced remote very suspicious now. If that was an econ asset, you'd expect that to be rezzed, so it could be an agenda hiding in there. Click 1 draw for the runner, which looks like a Living Mural. Living Mural is a Trojan killer, which synergizes well with the rest of Avasana's abilities in Kabul, such as Urban Art Vernissage. Although being a Trojan does make it vulnerable to overinstalls, so you've got to be careful where you put it, and potentially have backup breaker solutions. After considering their options, on click 2 we get a Coalescence install. The program install then allows us to get a card draw from the Lily Pad. Gets us another Coalescence in hand, although you'd like to space those out across multiple turns to allow you to keep drawing cards off Lily Pad. For clicks 3 and 4, we're clicking for a credit and then playing a Creative Commission, just generating a stable economic position to contest the board on future turns. Moving over to the corporation side, we get our mandatory draw and then a install in the iced remote. One of the 2 cards there is going to be an upgrade. And then clicks 2 and 3 are for credits. This is a very slow economic start from our corporation. Must be something very valuable in their hand if they do not want to run the risk of drawing up further and then having to discard our excess cards, although they've got a Spin Doctor on the table, so that would be fairly safe. Turn passes back to our runner, and for click 1 we are getting a Muse. Muse is a program tutor. If the card you select is a Trojan, it gets hosted on a piece of ice of your choice, and if not, it is hosted on the Muse, which can end up eating up additional memory units. Looks like the card we're looking for this time is a Pressure Spike, a Fractor, which will enable us to get through that Tattoo Bowler. Perhaps a little bit costly at this stage of the game, but our corporation is indicating they're in distress, so you may as well take advantage of it. After a quick cut, we get our draw from the Lily Pad, and Icarus just spends a few moments just checking over the cards in their hand, making sure that they've got options for the remaining clicks on this turn, because you really don't want to run that server and then find out you're eating 3 tags at the end of it. For click 2, we are getting the run on the iced server. It's just a Tattoo Bowler, which is only 1 credit to break. The Tattoo Bowler then gets swapped with another piece of ice from the corporation's hand, which gives them a few more credits to work with for the future. After the call to commit to accesses is finalised, a Managarm Skunkworks is registered in the server. Icarus now has a choice between losing their last 2 clicks or paying all the remaining credits in order to see what else is in the server. Understandably, they pay the clicks. And we see our first agenda of the game, an embedded reporting, which is immediately stolen. The Managarm Skunkworks is also trashed, which puts Icarus extremely low on credits. But Skunkworks is one of those pieces that can get really annoying if you don't trash it when you take the opportunity to do so, so they'll probably be happy for the moment. Our corporation player starts with an install in our now cleared out remote, followed up by a credit and a Opera research. 2 tags for 2 credits is a pretty good trade, especially when the runner is already starting to feel the pinch economically, and it's only going to get worse later in the game when higher threat levels mean even more tags can be applied. Fortunately, there's no resources currently on the runner's side of the board. However, if they wish to install any in the future, those tags are probably going to have to get cleared first. For click 1, we get a Coalescence install. However, even though we have plenty of MU available, the previously installed Coalescence is being sacrificed. For click 2, we are getting an overclock run on our iced remote. With the Facade in hand and Fractal on the board, this should be a fairly easy entry. Looks like we're getting an endpot res. This is a strength 4 3 subroutine code gate, so fairly easy to get through with the Facade Entangler and the overclock credits. And there's the Facade Entangler going down now. Runner's got it, it's just a question what's in the remote. And it looks like it's a Tomorrow's a Headline, so that is another 2 points for Icarus, but also another tag. Then those tags build up is all well and good, doesn't hurt you if you've got no resources out, at least not until they bring out a bigger picture or an IP enforcement. At least there's some good news here. Both our participants are low on credits, so they'll probably be taking a few turns off to recover. Hopefully that'll forestall any major negative consequences. For click 3 we get a draw, and then click 4 is a credit. Our corporation player Lander is going to have an interesting time here trying to stabilise, so just going to take a while to think about what their options are. There's several card options here for our corporation player to dig for, as well as the usual corporation staples of hedge fund and regolith mining license. We should also expect to find predictive planogram and potentially also public access plaza, an economy asset from the most recent set elevation. We may also expect to see some influencement on economy, such as anthill excavation contract and potentially Nico campaign. And for click 1 we are using the Synapse identity ability to remove a tag, gain 2 credits, and because we've removed a tag we can install a card. We have to reveal that card first however, and it's going to be a Tattoo Bolo going on R&D. After that's cards in place, it looks like for clicks 2 and 3 we are just clicking for credits again. Maybe we need to have a certain threshold of credits in order to res that HQ ice, which is why Lander is being more cautious and not overdrawing. Either way, for click 1 on a runner's turn we get a ritual for 3 more cards. Click 2 is for a credit, which brings us up to 5, allowing us to play the Sure Gamble on click 3 and the Fermenter on click 4. Icarus can afford to sit back for a moment and let that Fermenter tick up. Our runners in a strong position here where they can just sit back, generate money, dig through for their permanent breakers and set up a reliable rig that will be able to contest the remotes in the late game. On the other hand, our corporation player is going to have to find something to change their fortunes around. A bigger picture would be welcome to see right now, as would any other significant economy asset. For click 1 on the corporation's turn, we get an IP enforcement, which will allow them to steal back an agenda from the runner's score area. Doing so, however, is going to remove both of the runner's tags, and looks like we're taking back the tomorrow's headline. That goes straight into the iced remote, and the act of removing a tag also provokes a synapse trigger. After a few moments thinking about it, we end up with another endpot install on the remote. Hopefully that'll keep it secure for another turn, or at least make it ruinously expensive to get in and access. And for the corporation's last 2 clicks, they're clicking for credits again, going back up to 7. Back over to the runner's turn, and they are staring very intensely at a Unity in hand. That would allow them to certainly get into the server, although that's a very significant cost. That would be 3 credits for the install, then paying another 4 in order to break the first endpot, and then another 3 to bypass the second. Technically doable if a few more credits can be scrounged out of somewhere, but probably not advisable to do, especially when you consider the cost of having to deal with the additional tag that you'll be taking. Couple of words between our 2 participants. Looks like they're discussing something about how the facade entangler interacts with the endpot. Looks like Icarus has decided that they are going to fetch the agenda. We're cracking the fermenter early for only 4 credits. Usually you want to wait until you've got at least 6, preferably 8 or 10 credits on it. For click 2 we get the Unity installed. And then for click 3 we are running the iced remote. The endpot is going to get rezzed for 4 credits, and it's going to take 4 credits for the Unity to break it. And we move on to the second endpot, which will get bypassed 3 credits. This does leave the runner on only 2 credits at the point which they access the tomorrow's headline and steal it. For last click, the runners hovering over their click trackers, trying to decide whether it's worth going down to 0 to clear that tag. In the end they commit to it, going down to 0 credits. This is a little risky, as most econ cards cost money to play, so you're committing to taking a turn or 2 to click for credits in order to be able to recover. Attack removal here also gives a synapse install. That's being used to put a ping on the remote. It's a relatively cheap ice to break overall, however the tag on res provides an additional angle of deterrence. A corporation player starts their turn with the mantra draw, and then click 1 draws. Click 2 is going to be for another draw, and click 3 is going to be for a credit. Moving back to the runner's turn, they are looking at both their hand and heap as they have a scrounge in hand, a recursion event which allows you to install a program from the heap, as well as adding a program from the heap to the bottom of the stack. I'll need to click for credits a couple of times to use it, but that'll enable them to kickstart their economy again. For click 1 we get a draw, and it looks like it's a fermenter. I'll say an even better place to be as you don't know how to use the recursion event. Click 2 is a second draw. Click 3 is a credit, and then click 4 is the fermenter, and we're passing back to the corporation's turn. Corporation gets a mantra draw, and they've got a slight window if they wish to push something here. For click 1 we get an install in the iced remote, and click 2 and 3 are credits. Slow and steady, whatever's in the remote this turn is effectively untouchable because Our runner cannot burst up the sheer amount of credits they need to get in. We start with a click 1 draw from the runner. After a few moments thought, clicks 2, 3 and 4 are 4 credits. Gotta do it at some point, it's a good time as any. Back to the corporation's turn. We get a mandatory draw, and then a click 1 draw. Another draw on click 2. And for click 3 we get an ice install on HQ, bringing us up to 2 ice on HQ. And throwing out an additional card that is over hand size. Back to the runner's turn, we get a click 1 draw, as well as a click 2 draw. Click 3 is also a draw, really digging for something here. And for click 4, clicking for a credit, going to have to throw out a number of cards here. Losing a lily pad and an azimuth, as well as an urban art vernissage. Be a very useful econ piece in those situations, however we don't currently have any non-virus trojans on the board for it to make use of. On the corporation's turn we get a mandatory draw and straight into a purge. That clears all the virus counters off the fermenter and trashes the Fazarm Entangler. That remote's now a bit more expensive to get into and don't have the money on hand to be able to do it immediately. With the points as they stand though, our runner does have the luxury of just being able to sit back and wait for it to tick up again. The runner starts off with a click 1 draw, second click for a credit, and click 3 is playing a sure gamble. Got a handful of Trojans, but not much to do with at the moment. Probably wish they'd held on to the Urban Art Vernissage at this point. And so for click 4, they're clicking for another credit. Mandatory draw for the corporation, and then we get another thinking pause. For the first click we get an install in a new uniced remote. Second click is for a credit. And the third click is to put an advancement counter on the unread card in the iced remote. This feels like a very risky play given the current board state, but obviously our corporation knows something that I do not. On the runner's side, their fermenter ticks up again. And for click 1 they draw. Runner click 2 is to play a trick shot. That's a very powerful card, but there's a lot of ice to get through in order to touch anything in the remote. Fortunately, with the corporation being so low on credits, they're probably not going to be able to afford to res much. Our first res on R&D is a Tattoo Bowler. That will only cost 1 to break, however it's also going to give the corporation more money. And indeed we do get a swap with the Tattoo Bowler and a piece of ice in hand. Doing this very cautiously so that the Tattoo Bowler and the new piece of ice are both visible on the table at the same time. And our second piece of ice on the R&D is a Funhouse. This is a 4-strength single subroutine sentry. However, when you encounter it, you must either end the run or take a tag. This is a perfect piece of ice for Synapse. The runner has taken a tag to continue onwards. This is going to cost them 3 credits to break with Unity. As we commit to R&D accesses, we're going to see 2 cards from the top, and our first card is a Regolith mining license. The alt art that you can see there is the participation prize for the startup event. Looks like that's going to be trashed, very wise choice considering the corporation's credit pool. But the second card is another Regolith mining license. That's also going to get trashed, but they no longer have enough credits to get into the iced remote server, so instead they're going to bounce to the unresed, uniced remote, which is a public access plaza being resed in the server approach window, so that if trashed, it will provide a tag. And we get a trash on it anyway, our runner going to 3 credits and 2 tags. That is certainly a run that has put the corporation on the back foot economy-wise, but the runner is not in a great position either. For click 3, we are doing a run on HQ. With the corporation being as slow, it's very likely they will not be able to res any ice. And the fact that they haven't pushed any agendas recently suggests that there might be 1 or 2 hanging out in there. Indeed, there are no reses, and for our access we see an opposition research. Click 4, we're running straight back on HQ, just see if there's another useful card in there. And for our access, we're going to get a predicted planogram, kind of piece that the corporation is certainly going to be happy to have. This may have been a bit of an overcommitment on the part of the runners, they're now very low on credits again. Corporation takes their mandatory draw, and then first click is that predicted planogram. That's going to give the corporation 3 credits and 3 cards. Click 2 is a Your Digital Life, which provides credits for each card you have in hand. Exactly what you want to see just after you've overstocked your hand with cards. Brings our corporation player up to 9 credits total. And for click 3, we are getting a Retribution. This is a 1-cost event that allows the corporation to trash a program or piece of hardware of their choice. And here it is being used to trash the Muse that the Pressure Spike was hosted on, trashing them both. Start the runner's turn. Their first click is to crack the fermenter for 6 credits. Click 2 clears the tag, which gives Synapse to install. This is where you want to do it, so you've got the potential to react. Looks like it's going to be another ice install in R&D, bringing us up to a total of 3 ice there. Fortunately, it's just that tattoo bowler that keeps popping up. Click 3 is going to be to clear another tag. And for click 4, we're doing an archives run, which forces the spin doctor to be used, shuffling back 2 cards, one of which we must presume is an agenda. That single-ice card has been a single remote for a few turns now. Still likely to be safe for a few more though, given the current credit totals, and the need to find a solution for the barrier on the outside of the remote. Get a cut, and it's now the start of the corporation's turn. For click 1, we get installing a new remote and immediately resing it. It's the Spin Doctor. Click 2 is install in our iced remote. And click 3 is a second advancement on the already advanced card. If that was a low advancement agenda, we'd expect it to be scored out by now. So perhaps a next big thing, or an advancement card such as Idiosyncresis. For the runner's turn, we get a click 1 draw. Lots of answers in that hand, but not much money to play them with. Could probably do with drawing up more cards, searching for more economy pieces. For clicks 2 and 3, we are playing Scrounge. Allows the corporation to recur the pressure spike, unfortunately going down to 0 credits in the process. Once again, we're having to commit to click for credits for a few turns. And after a bit of indecision, a Muse is being added to the bottom of the stack. Our runner's final click, they are drawing a card, looks like it's a Monkey Wrench. And it looks like they're pitching a spree to get back down to hand size. Start of the corporation's turn, they're checking through their archives. Looks like they're trying to see if they've got anything they want to recur with Spin Doctor. The Spin Doctor is indeed being used, choosing to put back an IP enforcement and a regolith mining license. Once again, with the shuffle, just being reminded of exactly how full of agendas R&D must be, except for the fact that our runner just doesn't have the money to go and touch them at the moment. With a single advancement, the runner scores out an Oracle Think Tank. This is a 1-point free advancement agenda that gives the runner a tag whenever they steal it. It can also be taken back from the runner's score area by the corporation spending a click and removing a tag. It's almost the card that you want to get stolen, hence the previous advancement counters on it, just to try and telegraph that it was something else. Click 2 is an install in the iced remote. And for click 3, we have a predictive planogram for credits, bringing the corporation up to 9. Back over to the runner, they're going to have to do some combination of clicking for credits and drawing cards to try and dig themselves out of this hole. Otherwise, the corporation is just going to be able to keep pushing agenda after agenda. Unfortunately, Chris' hand is full of cards which are potentially useful in the future, but not now. It's better to just get rid of them, hopefully draw into duplicate copies later on when you might need them. Looks like we're just going to click for 4 credits and then pass the turn back to the corporation. And we get the corporation's mandatory draw. For click 1 we get a draw. Click 2 is install in the iced remote, bringing us up to a total of 3 cards there in the route. And then for click 3 we get a credit. Back to the runner's turn, we get a click 1 draw. Looks like it's a trick shot. For click 2 we are playing the trick shot. This is potentially dangerous as we have an unknown ice on the server. However, the funhouse can technically just be walked through without spending any credits now. First ice encountered is the Tattoo Bowler. It gets broken for a single credit. Looks like Icarus might be having second thoughts at this point, as they're carefully checking their credit totals in hand. The Tattoo Bowler is finally broken, and we get the ice swap. The second ice encountered is a ping. This is also a single credit break, but it's going to give a tag to the runner. On the approach to the funhouse, a slap vandal is installed on it. For a single subroutine Ice Touches funhouse, this provides a slightly cheaper break. We also get a lily pad draw off that. The runner commits to access and sees two cards off the top. The first is a funhouse, and the second is a Regolith Mining License. Unfortunately, trashing it at this point in the game isn't quite as impactful as the corporation is already stabilised on credits, so the runner decides to leave it where it is. At this point they also don't have enough credits to do anything else meaningful, so decide not to continue with the run on a remote. After a moment to think, it looks like clicks 3 and 4 are going to be for credits, and then it passes back to the corporation. The corporation takes their mandatory draw, and then first click uses a bigger picture. This is a multimodal card that can only be played if tagged. For the first mode, you can add an additional tag to the runner. For the second mode, you can remove any number of tags from the runner. For each tag you remove, the runner loses 5 credits, and you gain as many credits as the runner loses. And so our runner is now back down to 0 credits with a single tag. There's another Tattoo Bowler Synapse installed on R&D just to add to the pain. Clips 2 and 3, the corporation just clicks for credits, happy to sit back. And we're back to the runner's turn. Once again, a lot of cards in hand, but none of them are useful at this moment. Unfortunately, there's not much else to do other than just click back up for credits at this point, and the turn passes back over to the corporation. After the mandatory draw, a Hollow Man is rezzed on the ice remote. That is used to give 3 advanced encounters, and then 2 clicks are used to give 2 more, and we're scoring out a next big thing. Doing so puts us up to 4 points for both runner and corporation. After that, we're passing back over to the runner. The problem the runner's got at this moment is that they really need to act in order to stop the game from being tied out, or from being corporation be able to win just by fast advancing out an agenda with that Hollow Man. But they've got no credit reserve to do anything with. Click 1 for the runner is a draw. Click 2 is a credit, and click 3 is used to play the sure gamble that was just drawn. For click 4, we are making a run on R&D. We are starting to near time at this point, so this could just be a desperation run, just to see one last point and break the tie. First dice is a tattoo bowler, that just breaks for 1 and switches out. And our second ice in the server is a Cloud Eater. Apologies to everyone for the jump scare, I do not control what the visuals are. It's a very expensive and very nasty piece of ice to run into at this point in time. Runner's got a couple of options for getting through it, but either way you're going to be taking that on encounter effect. At this point the time in the round is called, so Icarus will finish out their turn and then it's just up to Lander to see what they can do to try and break the tie. So far this game has been a very good example of why you always keep a bunch of credits in reserve. Gotta have credits in order to make credits, as well as the importance of just drawing for cards when you need to find answers rather than keeping cards sitting around in your hand. The option chosen is to play a Muse from hand with Ari's ability, which is going to fetch a Fazara Entangler. The credits are paid for the bypass, and then the runner chooses to take 3 net damage. Fortunately, none of the cards particularly matter at this stage of the game, and got enough in hand. Our third encounter of the server is the ping, that's just broken for a single credit. And then the funhouse is broken for 1 with the slap vandal and a tag for the on encounter. Get 1 access and it is a doom scroll. No agendas there, and the turns pass back to the corporation for their last turn. Click 1 for the corporation is a credit. And for click 2 we have an IP enforcement. Unfortunately, Icarus took a tag off the funhouse, so they are now on 2 tags, which allows Lander to pinch an agenda back from their score area. It doesn't matter if they can't score it out, that means that we end the game on a score of 2-4 towards the corporation. Very unfortunate, as that breaks a tie at just the last moment. A slightly messy game overall, but it's still an educational one. If you're a newer player, it may be worthwhile rewatching this. See if you can spot the times when you might have played something differently, or the times when you might have fallen into the same mistakes our participants did. I know that I have at times. I've been Eliza, and this was Rigging Up.